Since images often need to be updated and reconstructed, Photoshop has a lot of great tools for allowing you to make changes, like the patch tool or the new and improved content aware patch tool. You've got clone and healing brush and spot healing brush. And we're going to go ahead and explore a lot of these options in order to recompose the background or just the image itself. Let's get started. Well, the first thing I want to take a look at is the patch tool and the content aware patch tool. And we can access those inside of this setting here. We have our spot healing, and here's our patch tool. The patch tool has been around for quite a bit of time, and it's a way where you can take a large area of pixels and you just are making a selection around it. I'm not doing too much of a selection here. I'm making a selection, and I'm just going to move it into some similar pixels. And what will happen is Photoshop automatically combines those pixels together. Let me zoom in a little bit here so you can see that. It automatically blends them together. And it works best when the pixels are pretty much standard. Now, I could use that patch tool again over here on this water stain, make a selection and move it in, and kind of try to move there. And we'll see what it happens. And actually, that does a pretty good job. Now, what's going on, though, is that the patch tool is making some of these guesses, and we have now what's called a content-aware patch tool. And the content-aware patch tool can actually do an even better job of making some of those changes. So I'm going to go ahead and use my history to go backward a little bit. And I still have that same selection, but this time we're going to use the content-aware. You should also be aware that when you're using the content-aware, that you have some options with the type of selection. And you usually want to make the selection a little bit bigger than you think. And then I'm usually using the very loose selection because it gives Photoshop a little bit more latitude for making those selections. We'll just kind of put it in the same area. And we'll go ahead and deselect it. And there's a little bit more of a blending, and it doesn't quite look as obvious that there was some work done. I can even come over here to this area and resample it and just come back. You find even if the color shifts a little bit, that's going to be okay. And you can start seeing those elements. Now, when we really start to see it is when we end up moving, let's say, an object in here. And I've gone ahead and got a selection for us already. So I'm just going to go ahead and make that selection. And usually when you're working with these selections, it's better to have your selection a little bit larger than normal. So I'm going to go into Select, Refine Edge, and just go ahead and shift that edge as far as I can go. This will also depend on the resolution and how many pixels you have of your original image. So this has a lot of pixels in it to begin with. You can see up there. So that's why it doesn't look like it's increasing very much, but that's going to be okay. And first of all, if I just got my Move tool and I just moved it, I'm going to have this hole in the middle. So the next step is using some other tools. And we could start by using our patch tool here to kind of get rid of it. And we'll use our patch tool and just move it to where we want it to be. And we'll see what it does. And it's going to create a replacement for us. And again, if I'd actually made a smoother selection, it would have been even better. But this was based on that content-aware patch, and you can see already it's making some really nice adjustments. Let's go ahead and try this with the patch tool that's our standard, our normal patch tool. Pull that in. And give it a moment just to update. And it doesn't quite blend it as well as the content-aware. There's a little bit more options that are visible. Let's go ahead and undo. There we go. And I'm going to actually make it even more obvious by using a more opened selection right here. Get back to the patch tool and use our content aware. And you can really see how smooth it is as you start changing that. And of course I need to go in and make some updates. And the more monotonous the background is, or the more similar the background is, the easier it's going to be. But still, this is the kind of thing that we used to spend a lot of time doing hand by hand with the clone tool, and it's a lot simpler now than ever before. Now, I'm going to go back a couple steps in here where I have that same post, and it has that original tight selection. In addition to the patch tool, we also have a new feature called the Content Aware Move tool. Now, the Content Aware Move tool actually has a move and extend, as two different options, but we're going to focus on the move area. And if I click on move, what it allows me to do is to move this, and as I'm moving it, watch what it's doing. It's going to actually analyze the pixels and replace them. And again, if this had been even more a simple background, it would have done even better job. But even with some of the changes in there, that's pretty amazing. Now I can still go back and I can get my patch tool or my cleanup tool and start cleaning up this area right here. But what's going to happen is now that I've got some pixels in here, if I try to use my patch tool or even my Content Aware patch tool, go ahead and check that out. When I try to move that in there, there's still going to be some combining of it, but you can see that it's starting to look like there was never a post there before, and I could just keep coming around and making some changes as well. Pretty amazing. Now, let's take a closer look. Here's an image that got rotated, and when it got rotated, some of the information got cut off. And I'm going to try using the patch tool to fix this as well. And so I'm going to make a selection. In fact, let's just actually make the selection with the magic wand, and that way we can select exactly, precisely those transparent pixels. And I'll go back to my patch, Content Aware, and I'm going to pull it in, and I'm going to kind of match it so the browns line up, and you can see the frame, I'm lining that up. And when I try to set it up, nothing's happening, and that's because the patch tool doesn't recognize the fact that these are transparent pixels. So there is a feature that we could use that was introduced a couple versions ago, and it's the Content Aware Fill. And this works great when you have transparent pixels, and especially, again, it works best if the pixels are pretty much the same. But when you go to your fill and you choose Content Aware, and you click on OK, you can see how Photoshop just analyzes the pixels around it. I'll go ahead and deselect. And it actually does a pretty good job of extending the pixels that were there and interpolating them. In fact, if I tried doing the patch tool, there would have been some interesting reflections with the light. I'll show you here. And with that light, it would have iterated in a way that would not necessarily been as realistic as what we happen to get with the Content Aware Fill. So usually you're going to use this patch tool, but it's nice to know that you have some options. Let's go ahead and undo that a couple times. And you can also take advantage of some tools for making some quick adjustments, like you have the spot healing brush and the healing brush. So the spot healing brush is great if you just want to make some quick updates. Not that this is blemish here, it's just a quick freckle, but you can actually remove things. And it also works if you have some artifacts in your image, or if you had some tears or rips, for example, in your image, you could use it to clean some elements up. You can also use the the healing brush, and the healing brush is going to sample pixels from one place with pixels from another and actually blend them together. And it works great if you have some elements that you want to clean up or just change that are in one place and you want to add them to another place. So for example, if I wanted to change some of the snow in here, I would Alt-click on some of the snow that I like, and that creates a sample, and then start painting. And you can kind of see as I'm positioning my mouse that there is a picture of that sampled snow. and I can start painting. And it's actually blending the pixels from where I sampled with the new pixels. Also, as you're blending it, notice that there's a crosshair that's moving along with my brush. And so the pixels that it's sampling are actually moving or changing as I'm moving my brush around. Now this is a little bit different from the traditional clone tool. The clone is when you want to make an exact copy of something, not necessarily a blending of it. And I use the clone tool a lot when I have images that with a date stamp, and I want to get rid of that date stamp. It becomes a really handy feature. But let's try this clone tool as a way of copying the post, not necessarily moving it. And the first trick is you need to Alt-click to sample those pixels, and then you take your mouse and you position. I'm going to make the mouse, the paintbrush a little bit larger, and position it where I want to go. I can actually paint this on a new layer, which gives me a little more flexibility down the road, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to start painting here. And as I'm painting, notice that my pixels are moving, or the cursor is moving, the target is moving. So if you needed to go back and clean up some area that you missed, you need to return to the layer where those pixels are and Alt-click to resample those images again, and then go back and start painting. And again, choose the right layer that you're painting on. The clone stamp, of course, is a lot different from any of those other tools because it didn't blend, it didn't change the pixels, it gave you an exact clone or copy of those pixels. If we had done something similar with the healing brush, and I'll try this on the same layer so you can see, the healing brush is actually going to blend those pixels together and be more dramatic here, but it's going to blend the pixels with the background pixels. And so it's better for changing skin tones and for changing something where you want that blend to occur, as opposed to creating a copy. Interestingly enough, I just switched my files, but the sample is still coming from the previous file. So that's a way that you could actually clone or use the healing brush from previous files. I'm going to go ahead and get his skin from his forehead and use that to, whoops, got to be careful there, and use that to clean up the cheek, and can resample as necessary. But sometimes you see that you need to keep resampling in order to get to those pieces. But as you do that, you could actually clean up some of those skin tones. One little tip and trick in here too, there's also a window called the clone source, and you can create up to 5 different samples. So if you're going back and forth and doing some of those cleanups with your brushes, you can actually sample multiple items and then go back and forth between them. What you have are a lot of great tools. Some of them have been around for a while. Some of them are brand new or newly improved in this version CS6, but you're able to go in and recompose the background or recompose those images to create some more realistic or more interesting images.